it took us. I think the first couple of years was quite interesting in the fact that we knew what winds each other up, not as business partners, but as brother and sister, and we'd sometimes use those tactics in business.
And it also got really hard. You are a family business and you are on a shelf when you've got Starbucks on one shoulder and you've got Coke on the other.
Yeah.
That is not an easy place to be at all.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Evolve to Succeed podcast. We are fortunate this week to have Jim and Suzie of the Jimmy's Iced Coffee fame on this podcast. They started the business in 2010, 2011 and sold the business in July 2023. So on this week's episode, we're going to explore that journey, what it's like for them as a brother and sister to be in business together, what that growth was like, how they built a brand instinctively, and what that exit journey was like, and so much more I'm sure will get covered in this conversation. So please do enjoy this episode of the Evolve to Succeed podcast. Welcome, Suzie.
Thank you. Good morning.
Welcome, Jim.
Good morning, Warren. Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, welcome to the Evolve to Succeed podcast. Really excited about our conversation today. Going to focus the conversation a lot around the journey, but also the dynamics of a brother-sister business. And I think as we're just talking about, everybody tends to know the origin of Jimmy's Iced Coffee and your travels, Jim, and coming back to the UK and thinking, right, I'm going to create that brand. But when was the moment that you thought, we're going to do this as brother and sister?
Well, I remember Jim approaching me when I had... sorry, I'll rewind. I had a coffee shop at the time when Jim had come back from Australia, and Jim kept saying to me about, iced coffee. And I kind of didn't really have his sort of love for that moment that he had experienced on the forecourt. I was like, I know about iced coffee because I sell it in my coffee shop, but I didn't sort of have that like eureka moment about it. But he kept, over sort of a couple of years, kept sort of talking about it. And then one day we were in the car driving through Southbourne. I remember where we were actually, and he's like, right, that's it, I want to make, let's make the best iced coffee, the best British iced coffee, let's make it, and will you help me make it? And I was like, yeah, great, why me? And he said, because you get shit done. And I was like, fine. So I rang the estate agent, put my coffee shop on the market the next day, and we set to work. So it was driving along Southbourne.
It was just that moment, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
And do you remember that moment, Jim?
I don't actually remember the cliff top part, but I definitely remember asking and remember saying, and when you were asking, like, why do you want me to come into business with you, and giving you the answer to that. But I just remember I felt like I was in such a hurry to get busy with the journey because I was so fed up of doing all the other rubbish jobs that we were doing at the time. Yeah. And also Suze was just, the coffee shop was such annoying work as well. And it was like, how do we both kind of we could free ourselves up from these jobs that we don't particularly enjoy and go on some whopping great escapade.
Yeah.
And that's, and then it kind of kicked off. Suze sold the shop really, really quickly. And then we just got straight to work. It was great.
Yeah, within 4 months of that conversation, we were launching a product into Selfridges. So that's how quickly we set to work. I had no doubt.
You definitely got shit done there,
didn't you?
We did.
Yeah, we didn't really, because we had no prior experience of launching a product into a department store or a shop. So we didn't know whether it was quick or whether it was really, really slow. But after we'd done it and we'd spoken to people did ask, how long has it taken? And we said 4 months. And they said, okay, it normally takes us like 2.5 years to get something to market. Because most of these companies are much bigger and they have all the red tape and they've got to make sure all the market segmentation is right and category info and all this rubbish. When actually, if you just want to go and smash something out of the park, you can just go and do it.
Go do it.
Yeah, quickly and quietly.
It's a really good example of where naivety sometimes in business actually
brilliant.
Is the blessing, isn't it?
Ignorance is bliss.
It's only later on in the journey, 10 years in, that you start to get caught up in all the red tape.
Yeah, and then you're like, okay, let's leave. Which we did.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, the naivety wore off, and then reality hit, and it's like time to go.
We'll come back to that part of the journey and all of those reasons, I'm sure. And I think we probably started to already answer it for the listeners. But how did you go about really defining your roles in the business? Because it's great to think, well, it's the two of us. We're going to co-found this business. We're brother and sister. We get on. We can do this. But what was the moment, do you think, that you really said, how are we going to play to our strengths? Or did you do that from day one?
We didn't do it from day one. We were sort of joined at the hip from the beginning, right through until we sort of were in Selfridges and then potentially Waitrose. And then I remember being in our little office and Jim saying, I needed to go to London to do a delivery one morning, and Jim said, I can't, I've got to focus on the marketing. And it was at that point, it was just like, we can't actually be joined at the hip here. And the natural path of Jim with marketing and myself with sales and all the kind of the boring spreadsheety bit behind the scenes and the ordering and manufacturing sort of defined our roles.
Yeah.
You were terrified at sales at the beginning because
my God, yeah.
Even we're doing local, literally just like box sales to places around here. And I said, right, Susie's your turn. And this was Avonmouth Bakery opposite Mudderford Quay. And Susie's like, I just can't do it. It's like, what do you mean you can't do it? Here's the paperwork. Tell them how much it costs. Tell them how amazing it is, and go and do a sale. And she was just like, I just can't do it. And then like 5 years later, she's just like storming into Tesco HQ being like, we need more stores and we need them now. And we need you to list this product and all these different things. But we all like learnt our own little bits and pieces all in time. But it's great being joined at the hip at the beginning because you learn everything. And then you kind of go, well, I'm actually more interested in that bit, or I'm better at that bit or whatever. So we end up, we did find our feet eventually, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those moments, I mean, so you learn about sales or be able to push yourself out there, get that personality of yours, Susie, out there. Jim, what did you learn about yourself in those early days?
That I had more energy than I could possibly fathom. I just didn't realise I could actually contain or just have that much energy. I could just get up at whatever time in the morning and go to bed at whatever time of night and then just keep on trucking and be relentlessly positive about everything the entire time. And that was, I kind of knew that I had enthusiasm and all these kind of things, but I didn't realise how much I actually had.
Yeah.
And that was quite, it was nice just to know that that's okay. We can just go again, and we'll go again tomorrow, and then we'll go again the next day after that. And we'll work all weekend as well, because do you know what? It's going to be epic. It's going to be this whole thing is going to be so much fun all of the time.
Yeah.
And if that happens, then good stuff tends to happen. You know, I think optimism is one of the greatest kind of tools you can have in your toolkit in business, because everyone wants to follow your journey. Everyone wants to be part of that party. If you're throwing a really fun party, people want to come and play. And if you're doing something really boring and people aren't necessarily interested, so we were just heaving the enthusiasm bag around, and it worked. It's great.
It's good. It did work, definitely. And it was relentless though, wasn't it?
It was relentless. Yeah.
And from the outside, there was always this question mark, and I'm going to have to say this: was that enthusiasm real, or deep down were you thinking, "Oh my God, we can't keep this up, can't keep this going"? But I think you've just answered that in that it was a real passion that
real.
you both had.
It was totally real. People do ask that question quite regularly, like, "Did you ever think it wasn't going to work?" Yeah. We never thought it wasn't going to work. No. Always, even in the darkest day, it's just a dark day, but tomorrow's going to be fine and it's going to get better and better. It's always going to work. Because we said at a point that if we think for one day it's not going to work, that means we're thinking for one day that you have to think every single day it's going to work.
Yeah.
If you think the other way, then you're not thinking that it is. And it has to be like that. Has to.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Great advice. And do you think that was your upbringing? Because, brother, sister, both with that can-do, that we're just going to keep knocking it out the park until this happens.
I do think there is definitely a part. And I think living in the Middle East for 18 years from when we were both born out there, we had sunshine every day, and we genuinely believe that we kind of have sunshine in our bellies.
Yeah.
And we took that on our journey, and it was definitely it had a magnetic effect with people. Buyers were, you go into a Tesco HQ, for example, and in the waiting room it was sort of like everyone was in suits and with their little black briefcase with their golden nugget in there, and we would turn up in like a sarong, jeans, flip-flops. All we were missing was like an inflatable crocodile under our arm, and you definitely, by being different, you attracted people were really interested in us because we were really genuine.
So there's a genuine kind of personality behind this really fun brand.
Yes, and we were just positive the whole time. We were just, And
it's also founders going in as well, isn't it? Because a lot of the people going into these supermarkets are account managers who are, they're thinking about their bonus, they're thinking about X, Y, and Z, and we weren't thinking about bonuses. We're thinking about how exciting it would be to have one of our products on 300 of the shelves of that
Yeah,
supermarket.
just sat on the shelf to
Yeah,
see that
and
brand.
then knowing
you'd
that a
created
stranger
and
might
that
go and pick it
product.
up one day over 300 other products that are available to them is like, that's the absolute golden thing, is seeing people drink the product that you've had no influence over. They found it on their own accord, and you go, wow, I don't know what we've done to make them do that, but they've done it, and it's really, really exciting.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, brother and sister in business, this seems really sort of harmonic at the moment. What was that dynamics like? Was there any tough moments? Was there any tough moments when you did fall out as brother and sister over business?
We only had a couple of sort of disagreements, if you like, about members of staff or situations within that. But otherwise, we genuinely worked really, really well together. And as soon as our roles were defined, it was very much like it was so lovely to be able to like call into the other and go, I've done this and I've done that, and the other being so encouraging. And we would genuinely like that throughout the whole journey, because our roles never ever met again. We never ever did the same thing again, really, apart from like in a crisis meeting. Let's say we had to go to save an account with Co-op or something, we would go together, because it's really important, as Jim alluded to there, about founders turning up, because the buyers really like to see the founders. It shows you still really care. And you know, who's the founder of Coke? Do you know what I mean? They don't, you know. So but I think we worked really, really well together. What do you think?
Oh yeah, totally. And one of the coolest things is you have trust immediately, because we've known each other for a billion years. And it took us, the first couple of years was quite interesting in the fact that we knew what winds each other up, not as business partners, but as brother and sister. And we'd sometimes use those tactics in business. And you're like, don't play that card with me. We are business partners. We're not brother and sister chasing each other around the lounge when we're 6. This is different. And we'd both do it to each other. And we just knew it just takes a little bit of time to kind of get there. But then after that, and also you can be really, really honest with each other. And I think that was really handy, because I think if you have traditional business partners, they might bottle stuff up because there's that respect there. And I think there's actually even more respect when you can just go, look, that doesn't work. That doesn't work for me. And this is why. And then you can get through it.
And you do see that in a lot of businesses that are co-founded, isn't it? That after that 5-10 year point, the honeymoon period's over. People, their angst that they've been bottling up starts to come out, and you see the cracks emerge, and one leaves, and clearly you went on this journey from day one together. And came through the other side together. That must be a really proud moment for you both.
Very, And
it actually gets even more, I get more proud as the time goes on since we've sold as well, because we have so much more. I mean, we don't see each other half as much as we used to, because we were still obviously working every single day. But now it's so much more relaxed, and we don't have to talk about anything challenging at all. There's no like, okay, tomorrow, how are we going to sort this massive problem out tomorrow? We've got to be there for 8. Let's make sure we're on our, we don't have any of that. It's like, should we go and have a coffee tomorrow? Great. And we just talk about whatever without any stress, no nothing. And it's kind of really nice to just have that relationship back again. That doesn't involve any of that pap.
Because a lot of people that are in family businesses do say that, don't they? The family relationship just dissipates, it disappears.
Yeah,
and
it's a real shame.
Yeah, and it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a real shame.
But you've not gone through that part of the journey, have you?
No, not at all.
But it was when we were working together, if we were at a family barbecue or any kind of gathering, it would always revert to, between the two of us, if we had a moment having a beer together, it would always then be work.
That intensity would always be there.
Yeah, whereas now we just don't talk about that. We talk about, our children and our lives and what we're doing, and it's just so it's joyful now, really.
Wow. It's awesome.
It's really nice.
And along the way and along the journey, so the business was 12, 13 years old by the time it was sold. But, when you look back on that 12, 13 year kind of journey, what's the pinch me moment that you both got? What's that one moment that perhaps you may remember and tell your grandchildren one day?
I remember when we got the listing with Waitrose. So we went into this meeting, and we had already got Selfridges, or Jim had actually got Selfridges, so he'd had that moment sort of direct, but we were there sitting in front of the buyer, and there was two of them there, and we were talking, and halfway through her sort of spiel she said, "Oh, it's a yes, by the way," and then carried on talking, and I was literally having to sort of bite my cheeks to stop myself from crying with just explosive happiness. And then we got in the lift, and we went down. It was kind of it felt a bit Dragon's Den looking back now. You sort of go in the lift and you go down to reception, and it was just like, oh my God, and I'll never forget her words. Oh, it's a yes, by the way. And it was just like,
Just done so casually.
just so casually, yeah, yeah.
Life-changing moment or business-changing moment.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely. And then, all the other yeses along the way, they were not easy to get. But we had to get them. So the volume drivers with the big Tesco's and that sort of thing, we had to get those accounts. And we then got worse and worse at sort of celebrating the wins, because it was like, we need that volume, because we have to manufacture more to get our costs down. And but yes, so sorry, what was your that was my moment.
I kind of agree. I think something like that, because we were there together when we did it, and the Selfridges one was different because I was on my own, so you can't really, you want to be able to share the success that we've both done together. So I'd say something like that. Even doing like this UK soft drinks conference a billion years ago, dressed in a carton costume, and we had this kind of like pretend Dragon's Den pitching thing, and I was up against two other people, and David Beardmore, who's the category director for Impulse products. If anyone has got a drink or food, that's the guy you need to go and talk to.
Oh, he'll be really happy.
Sorry,
about
Beardo. He was on the panel and was just like, "Why haven't you guys pitched to Tesco before? Because this product's great." And we said, "We've been and visited your team 4 times," and he was livid by the fact he hadn't heard about us or anything. And he'd seen us in Whole Foods Market and was just like, we've got to get this done. So that was another really nice defining moment of like, this guy actually wants to genuinely talk to us.
Yeah, that was big.
And then that was such a monster listing as well, because they've got so much just footprint nationally. It's monumental. Yeah.
And I mean, it's quite interesting what you say, because I think in business we don't celebrate our successes enough, do we?
No.
And we probably do in the early days because they mean so much.
Yeah.
But actually, as business grows and the pressure mounts, some of these big wins, big successes, we just kind of
it becomes another line on a spreadsheet.
Yeah,
and we just shouldn't do that.
Yeah, and we just look for the next hurdle, don't we? And I always look back and, being driven myself, think, I wonder what the effect was on my team when I was just kept driving relentlessly forward. Do you ever reflect on that?
Can we have a beer now? No, we got to keep going. Got to keep going. Yeah. Yeah, it does. I think but everyone else kind of shared the same thing. Everyone else was just enjoying being busy, because Susan and I are quite good at distracting people, particularly me in the office. I just like walking around annoying people all day, and people do just like getting on with their work. So if we're like, oh, we've got another thing to celebrate, people are like, I'm actually just really busy working on something else at the moment. So can we save that for, why don't we bundle it all together and have a nice summer party and just stop distracting me all the time?
Was that what it was like?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
No, definitely. So we talked about some of the biggest joys. What's possibly the darkest moment in that journey, if you reflect back? Was there ever a moment of doubt?
Never a moment of doubt. Like we said earlier, in terms of just, it's always going to work. But you do kind of question yourself sometimes. And I think probably one of my darkest was when we had to throw away about 20 pallets of 1 litre product that was going off. And we thought everyone was going to love 1 litre iced coffee, but iced coffee market was too small. People weren't willing to pay £3.50 for a litre of iced coffee, because they only wanted to spend a little bit. So we ended up having to chuck loads, and we did our own, loaded up a van with pallets of iced coffee at a time, went to a commercial recycling centre in the pissing rain in the middle of winter, and we were like, what has gone wrong?
We literally poured about 40 grams worth of stock all over the floor.
Just wondering, like, why, like, what are we actually doing? Is this still? It's like, yeah, it's still okay, but today's particularly pressing because we've still got loads of work to do, and we're stood in a recycling centre with like high-vis jackets on, watching this. This guy had a grabber, and he'd burst all the iced coffee on the floor of this commercial recycling centre, and he picked up a double mattress off a bin pile and just mopped it up like it was a sponge. It was that kind of colossal, the size of this operation. And we were kind of scratching our heads and we were thinking, I think that's probably where we came up with this phrase, which is like take 24, which is like just basically sleep on a decision before you go hell for leather on doing stuff. Susan and I are very impulsive people, and we did need to have someone just wind us back in to go, just think about this for a second. Why don't you just keep pushing your existing product range without expanding? And this is all stuff I would have said to myself if I'd had a
stop for a moment.
Yeah, and we had a couple of mentors, but no one regularly enough to go, what's happening? Actually, don't do that.
Yeah.
Trust me, just focus on keeping it as simple as humanly possible. And we did go off in a lot of directions quite a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, over time you go, no.
Surely that impulsive nature that you both had is probably what drove the success. Though, I mean, you talk about that moment and that product and £40,000 worth of product being thrown away, but if you hadn't been impulsive and you'd have been kind of navel gazing, you'd never got off the start line in 4 months, would you?
Absolutely,
So,
yeah.
It's just it's everyone says it's a balance. It is a balance.
Yeah.
I think it's harder now, though. It wouldn't be so easy for us to, if we started up now, to be able to go, oh, we're going to make a decaf, and then Waitrose say, oh, okay, we'll take it, or we'll make a 1 litre, okay, we'll take it. They just wouldn't have taken it. They wouldn't take it now because it's so much harder to gain shelf space because there are more players on the market. Okay. So the shelves, as they always told us, are not elasticated. They don't stretch, and I think that would have prevented us from being able to go a bit off piste and be like, oh great, we'll make a 1 litre, and then we'll make a decaf.
Yeah,
and
the
actually
market wouldn't have been there for it.
Exactly, yeah, we would not have had a customer for it. So but hey, we lived
and your darkest moment?
That one. And a couple of years ago, hearing from one of the retailers, the Co-op actually, where we sort of got this ambiguous sort of email about, can you please come up to a meeting, and they're based in Manchester, and it was all very, there
was no agenda or anything.
Bring your keys, and sort of, it just felt a bit like, oh my goodness me, what is going on? And it was just that not knowing. And yes, it was not the news we wanted to hear, but it was just an awful time, because that, as Jim said earlier about it being a line in a spreadsheet, it was a very important customer, and of course we've got more crew on board to turn all the cogs, and if you take out a massive customer, you take out a massive load of income, which means it has a knock-on effect to your wage bill, etc. So that was really that lost me a lot of sleep, that period of time.
Tough.
Yeah, I remember in the early days, we had racked up about £250,000 worth of debt with our manufacturer. They had just bankrolled us, bless them, because we had no investment really. And we went for a meeting with them, like I say, but this was back in the day. And they said, right, tell us why we should keep making for you, because you owe us £250,000. And ironically, that I didn't lose any sleep over that. I was just like, it's going to be okay. And Jim delivered the most monumental pitch to them, and we came away, and they
had to keep making for us, otherwise we wouldn't be able to pay them back in the first place.
Yeah, that's true. But it's funny how.
But they were cool.
They were, but
cool.
that should have been the moment I was, my darkest moment. But I think because naivety was strong in those days, and it was never a case of looking over our shoulder. It was always a case of, we're going to win this. It was just like, this is just a hurdle. This is fine. And we did. We got over it, and they made for us, and they continued to make for us for many, many years.
Yeah.
And we paid them back.
I look back in those early days, those people that support you and really get you somewhere.
Yeah.
You just look back fondly at.
Oh, they're just fabulous business. Yeah, lovely people, and they really did look out for us.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah.
So we've got to talk about the brand, because I mean the brand and everything it represents and the way it just hit the market was incredible. And from the outside again, it seemed that you were doing this, we talk about guerrilla marketing, but it seemed very instinctive how you created and built the brand. Is that the case?
Yeah, very much so. I think it was something almost like just being given a load of paint with a massive canvas and saying, you've just got to do something right now. And there's no prep. You can't choose your tools. Yeah. This is what you've got to go with. And it was really, really exciting, because we genuinely felt, and still do feel, like we'd made the best iced coffee in the UK, and just wanted people to try it because we believed it was really, really amazing. And 99.9% of people that you give a sample to, they go, this is really delicious. So you kind of ride that wave as well, and you just go about waving your flag in this like monumental way to say that this product is amazing, and we want more and more people to try it because we feel the goodness of it in terms of like its refreshment value. The brand looks great, the taste is amazing, it's not too sweet, and just makes you feel better. It's not better as in health wise, but just better as in like just makes you feel good. Like there's something about iced coffee that's just really cool, and it's so much better than tea. Like iced tea is okay, but iced coffee is just, there's just something about it for me particularly. And I just wanted to share that with people, and still happily share that with people because it's so
that
much
passion
fun.
is still
It's
there.
still there, isn't it?
It's burning
honestly,
deep.
It gets me. It really gets me. I love it. I think, and then the brand, I think because I had my name on it, I could then be the voice of it, and you didn't have to kind of create this brand Bible of do's and don'ts, and these are our pillars and these are our values. It was like we had two values that kind of just came up out of nowhere. One was our strapline, which was keep your chin up, which is about being immensely positive. And then the other one was kind of like our internal one, which was we want to make refreshing, ready to drink iced coffee available in great fridges across the UK and beyond. That's it. And then if we just stuck to that, then everything's fine.
Yeah.
We don't need to stray from the path. Keep it real, keep it simple, and off we go.
Wow. And you did some fun stuff along the way, and I suppose, Suzie, I'd ask you, did you ever look across your shoulder and see what Jim was up to and think, oh my God, what's he doing now?
I remember when going into pitch to WH Smith's, and Jim said, let's dress up in morph suits and carton dresses. And we were standing there, we'd driven up in the wee hours, and we were standing there freezing cold in the entrance to WH Smith's, just in these just like head to toe morph suits with these dresses on, trying to pitch our iced coffee in, and thinking, what are we doing? What on earth is going on? And there was always something. There was a photo shoot with someone, and we had to dress up in this or do that. And you just felt like you just had to get your costume on and just put that smile on.
Drag you around a few.
Yeah,
Showtime.
Yeah, it was
wonderful
showtime.
places.
And you just have to park any inhibitions and just get on with it. And it was kind of, that's what we did.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, it's just things like you've got an opportunity to kick an oversized rugby ball at the Majeski Stadium in front of 40,000 people, and was like, well, let's do that in a carton costume, because then that's 40,000 people seeing our product, and we might even get on TV in the middle of February. So just, well, okay, let's go. And that's what we did. And does it move the needle? I have no idea. Probably not. But if you don't get yourself into these situations, you're never going to find out whether it's going to work out or not. Because I think we've been really lucky in places, but you have to be somewhere first to get the luck. You sit on your couch, you're not going to get lucky. You need to go somewhere, and if you don't get lucky when you get there, it's okay. But luck will come when you get to the next station or the next station or the next station. And that's where it gets really fun, because you're just gambling with ideas, and that's in the beginning, that's all you've got, because you've got no budget. You can't do anything but get yourself somewhere. And if it turns out good, it's great.
Yeah.
And you repeat.
But what's the downside?
You drive home.
That's what I mean. There is none, is there?
Yeah.
But
There was a nugget every single time we did something. There was a nugget, even in the very early days before we launched into Selfridges. It was February, and we took a van that we had to hire to Bournemouth train station, and it was hailing. It was that cold. It was hailing. Horizontal hailing, yeah, in fact. And we were giving out iced coffee, which is not what people wanted. However,
out of a cool box full of ice, so everything's cold.
Yeah,
everything.
Yeah, and then literally one of the last cartons we handed out was to one of the catering managers of Bournemouth University, and he sort of walked past us and said, "Oh my goodness, no thanks," like most people did. We were like, "It's free." And he said, "Whoa, hang on a minute, what's this?" And he came back and he took it and he said, "Oh, I'm the catering manager of Bournemouth University," and it was like, "There you go." And I said, "We can go home now." Go home and go back into bed.
Go warm up somewhere.
Yeah. Listing,
and we did get the listing. So yeah, it is about getting off your bum.
You just never know.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where we're different with a lot of people. Is you say, "Well, go and do that," and they say, "Well, why would you do that?" It's like, because you never know what might happen
and who you might meet.
It's interesting. In a lot of our conversations on the podcast, we talk about serendipity and the part serendipity plays.
Yeah.
But actually, listening to you now, my reflection here is actually serendipity does play a
It
role,
does.
Oh,
but it only
totally.
comes out of hard work and hard
Yeah.
graft.
And
Yeah.
putting
Getting
yourself out
out
there.
You've got to be
it
there.
will not come
Yeah.
to you. You have
Yeah.
to go to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, great advice. And if somebody's listening to this podcast wanting to, create their brand or think their brand is stuck and thinking they need a refresh, what hints and tips? We sort of alluded to some already, but what hints and tips would the two of you give?
I think there's got to be a lot of like actual gut instinct, like how you genuinely feel about it. If it doesn't feel like it's right in your own skin and you're the founder and the owner of it, then yes, things have got to change. I think it's worthwhile talking to people who have either tried your product or haven't tried your product, just to get some kind of steer as to whether, people might just go, you just or everyone thinks you're heading in the wrong direction. Okay, cool. Where do you think I should go? But just talking to normal people. Don't go and get some agency to set up a focus group. Just go and just talk to some people and just say, what do you think? And actually, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably listening to other podcasts, and there will be people that you've heard about that you actually might want to talk to and might want to find a mentor who you might go, do you know what? Actually, I think I could trust your judgment on something. It could be a wise old auntie or uncle, or it could be a business person. It's not going to be Richard Branson, but it's going to be someone who might have a brand or had a brand that's got a lot more time that you can talk to. That you could actually go, look, I just want to have half an hour with you every couple of weeks just to kind of steer my brand in the right direction. And if I trust you, then that's all good.
I think you've always said as well, Jim, if it doesn't bounce on your brain the minute you wake up and until you go to sleep, then something's not quite right. So be true to yourself and true to your gut. I firmly believe in gut instinct. Absolutely, categorically believe in that. And be true to yourself. So like Jim said, if it doesn't feel right, then really, really take a look at it and be prepared to accept and listen to constructive feedback. Because if you don't, you could be, I don't know, don't be so arrogant about it, because people might be trying to help you.
Yeah, and just listen.
Yeah.
Gut instinct's an interesting one there as well, because you both sort of, this sort of cropped up in a couple of the conversations, and that, be bouncy from the morning to close, but that is harder the bigger the business gets, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you do have the voices of people around you and people in your ear.
Yeah.
And sometimes that fear of what may go wrong because you built this business means that you don't, usually with negative consequences, but you don't listen to your gut instinct. Can you remember a time when perhaps you didn't listen to your gut instinct, or was that such a mantra that is what you always did?
The Take 24 thing, I think, is definitely sort of coincides with the gut instinct.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because gut instinct can become quite impulsive, can't it?
Yeah.
But then I think you do apply that kind of, let's just think about it a little bit more. But also, as we got older and we ended up having a bigger kind of senior team, you would take your gut instinct to the team and go, this is how I'm feeling about this. And they go, I totally hear you, but have you thought about this? And we've actually been discussing about going, around the issue this way. And then you kind of go, okay, great. Because all the people who are part of that team are very sensible, and they all bring 100% of their knowledge of their particular sector in the business to the table. So you can come up with the problem and they'll go, do you know what, we've actually already sorted it, and this is what we're going to do. And you kind of go, okay, this is great, because we don't need us to being kind of impulsive and we need to go this way, we need to go this way. It's like, well, actually, no, the company's at a size now where we need to be a lot more kind of controlled and processed and all of those things.
You had to rely on data and that sort of thing. And data, we used to say data schmata, and it is, but our MD was very well read, and he would come to the table with lots of proper stats that are actual meaningful stats, rather than like, oh, well, I think it would look really nice if it was purple. And it's like, well, actually, it data says, and you kind of go, oh, okay.
A very quick break from this week's episode, which I hope you're enjoying. If you are enjoying, please remember, do help us and help yourself to make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing and reviewing the episode. So that's it. Short interlude from me. Let's get back to the conversation. We should also focus a bit on that growth story, because it was, by the time you sold, the business was turning over £17 million, was it?
No, it was doing about 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So zero
Yeah.
to £13 million
Yeah.
in a new product that hadn't been in the UK
Yeah.
in 10, 13 years. I mean, what a hell of a journey. But to get from there, you know, that growth, employing people, finding facilities, stretching your manufacturer, you know, continuing to build the brand, doing all of those things.
You're making me tired just saying all
I'm getting a flicky eye again.
But yeah, I don't want to take
Here
you
we
back
go.
there. But, you know, what phenomenal growth. And again, when you look at that growth journey, advice, tips to somebody in those early days of their business now, looking to grow their business, you know, what are some of the lessons that you learned that you would want to share with others?
I think can I go?
Yeah, go for it.
I think you have to enjoy the journey, and the reasons for doing the journey have to be valid and very true. You can't just do it because you want to make a fast buck. People do it. They slip through that tiny little gap, but unless you've got the reason to get up out of bed each day to go and do it for whatever that reason is, that energy will subside quite quickly. So I think you've got to just question: Am I doing what I want to do? Basically, that's the first thing. And then I think our Take 24 thing of just like taking a little bit of time to actually just consider what you're doing. You don't have to rush. You do have to go quickly and quietly, or as loud as you want actually, but just a little bit more thought process and driven, and don't have to rush to get to the end, because the end will come in time. But if you can make the journey enjoyable, then it doesn't matter particularly when it comes, because if you're happy doing that during that time, then that's all good.
Okay. Your growth lessons, Suzie?
My growth lessons. I think it just does hark back to that sort of naivety thing. You just go. And in the early days, you do just go. And you have to. It's almost such a blur. And the bigger you get, the more unfun it is actually, because then you're caught up in just bureaucracy and legals and just you can't have the fun that you used to have. So
And did you find yourselves being dragged into that world, or were you able to employ the people that could deal with the detail so that you could still play to your strengths?
Well, yeah, we did employ people, and we had a great board. So Jim and I were kind of we were sort of the ones that would always just wanted to play, really. And when the MD would come to the table, or our FD Steve would come to the table with all these, well, down by 14%, we'd be like, oh yeah, okay, fine, it'll be fine, let's go, let's keep going, because it was so boring. All that stuff's so boring, and you just get caught up in, there's staffing issues, or people come with problems, or there's issues with the new legislation, or dear old Brexit that came to the table halfway through the journey, which was just, a sideswipe, and then COVID, and it's just like, okay, how do we deal with this? Let's just break it down bit by bit. Try not to take the whole thing on in one go. Just break it down day at a time, but just keep your eye on the prize.
Yeah.
I really enjoy taking risks. And then we get to the size that we got to, and you want to take risks, and no one really wants to take risks because everything's okay.
Yeah.
And you're like,
That must
have
frustrated the hell out of you.
Yeah, it did. But I also kind of felt like by the time we got to like year 10, bearing in mind we had 2 years left before we sold, I kind of just was like, company's just running by itself. And it's something that we'd wanted to get to that point, because everyone was wondering, but you're Jim, you're the car, you're the
brand,
product, you're the everything. And I kind of want to try and just take myself out of that equation from a brand point of view, but then also in the company, just be able to let it run by itself. So when we actually came to exit, we were in a situation where they'd be like, well, how long do you need to stay on for? And we're like, well, we don't really need to, because these guys are the experts, and we're just here on call whenever is needed, plus doing it, standard bits of work. But it kind of felt nice to be able to seamlessly, just when we did get to the exit point, just go and let it just keep rolling by itself.
Interesting.
It was important for the exit that Jim was not an integral part of it, because a lot of the questions at the end were, like, well, what if Jim got hit by a bus? That the whole business would just collapse, and we wanted to make sure we were not in that position. So we had to literally just almost take Jim and his face off of everything and away so that it was a standalone business. And actually, ironically, the data says that people didn't even know there was a guy behind it. They just thought it was called Jimmy for, that's just the name of the brand. And actually, that's what we wanted to achieve in the end.
Transition, really, because the
Yeah.
brand in that first 3 to 5 years was all
literally,
about
yeah.
Jim.
Yeah. But then when you think about it, when you think about things like social media, we've got 40,000 people that follow us on Instagram, but we will sell maybe 18 million units this year. So you're like, well, you're talking to a fly.
Definitely.
There's so many more
and I
people.
suppose in those early days, your unit sales was so much less. You're probably selling a lot more locally.
Yeah. There is that
Therefore-
thing. And we'd have presence at food festival. We'd do any market around here to get either product sold or whatever. So, and we actually quite like championing the South Coast as this is our heartland. And there are some brands that do that really, really well. And we really like the fact that we could get up in the morning and take a photograph of the beach and post it onto our socials, knowing that people in London just want to check our account because they just want to see what the sea's doing that morning. So that was really useful kind of in the beginning. And we still celebrate being down here because it is such a wonderful part of the world.
Well, we're recording
When the
at
sun
Soho in Christchurch today, overlooking
It's beautiful.
Beautiful ruins.
In the
listeners can't
sunshine.
obviously see, but
Yeah.
Christchurch
Close enough.
Castle, and
Yeah.
it's lovely to be here. And before we start talking about the exit, the last element of the business that I think would be really interesting for you to touch upon is this bit around sustainability, because that was also really core to you, the business, the values.
Yeah.
And perhaps you could just explain that sustainability journey that you went on?
Well, we started off in a carton, and then we moved into another carton which had a foil lining, and it kind of had to go to a specialist recycling centre because it also had a plastic lid. And one day Jim was on the Jurassic Coast and stumbled across one of these lids on the beach.
One of your own lids?
Well,
It
who
could have been.
knows? It could
Totally
have been
could
one
have
of
been
ours. It was almost at a time where we were growing out of the carton kind of nostalgicness of a carton, and we needed to be more premium, and aluminium was absolutely the way to go, purely for recycling purposes. It doesn't have a plastic lid, it can be back on the shelf in 60 days, and it was a real driver to get into aluminium. However, there was not an aluminium filler that fills dairy in the UK, so then we had to look over into Europe. So it took about 3 years to get into aluminium, and actually the iconic bottle can in the end was a wonderful moment where our MD had been to the Far East on holiday and come back with one of these bottle cans that was filled with another iced coffee, and he just casually put it on his desk. And Jim walked past his desk one day and was just like, well, what is that?
I lost it.
Yeah, you did.
I
It
was
was
just so excited. It was like another wave of, oh my God, that's going to be the best drinking experience in the world. And it is.
Yeah, so
It's
he rinsed it out and
exceptional.
he filled it with ours, and we got our designers to paint all over it, paint our brand all over it, and it was like, this is it. So, but unfortunately it did take a long time, but it was worth every minute.
Yeah.
That could totally be, like when you think about some of the highlights, seeing it on his desk and just instantly knowing,
That's
like,
it, yeah.
this is it.
Yeah.
This is going to change everything.
And that's the beauty
And it
about
did.
being a founder, is those moments where you click and you know.
The instinct.
It's that instinct, yeah.
Kicks in.
Yeah, absolutely. So we went into a slim can, which was easier to fill, but the aluminium bottle cans had to come from Japan, and there was a big sort of there was just a lot of work that had to go into that. But it was very exciting too.
And I suppose that's a kind of journey you can only go on really when you're that owner-managed business. And you're that passionate about making this product in a sustainable way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Completely.
It's one of those benefits of being
Yeah.
owner managed at that point.
Well, when we first launched, even on the side of our carton, we just thought we don't want to become a successful business with anyone else that's going to get kind of ground down in the process. So when we were looking at our milk supply in the beginning, we just wanted to make sure it was going to be UK dairies, so keeping our milk miles low. This is one of the things we had on the side of the carton. And And then with the likes to even our coffee suppliers, we found I just wanted to make sure that we could source the best possible coffee that we could get our hands on. So we've done that since day dot as well. It's not one of these box ticking exercises. It's actually something that feels like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And also, if you get questioned about it, you kind of don't want to be like, oh yeah, we source really, really crap coffee, and everyone who produces it doesn't get paid very well. You doesn't fit right.
Yeah.
Especially when we're such enthusiastic, optimistic people, you want to be happy because other people are happy as well. And then we did the whole B Corp route and all that kind of stuff. So it just was kind of like intrinsic to how we were doing our stuff.
It's interesting because the B Corp thing is now gaining momentum and popularity. Lots of businesses out there are thinking about it, particularly those sort of owner-managed businesses that have got that right value set in their head.
Yeah.
What was that journey like? Because there's kind of mixed reports that sometimes it feels like the right thing, but it's quite difficult to do and obtain, and other times people think it's just a certification. Does it really mean anything? What your
the first
views?
point you just made is very true. It feels like a good thing to do, but it is hard. It's hard to get. I think for us it was just one of those things where we were kind of doing all of the stuff right anyway, but it's just quite nice to have an external body kind of tick it off, and then you can just say to people, just to let you know, this is what we do. You could write your own white paper on your own version of B Corp if you wanted to. That's absolutely fine. I mean, you look at the likes of, I don't know if you heard of Tony's Chocolonely, but they're amazing chocolate company, ending child slavery within chocolate sourcing. And they do an amazing job, and they create a whopping great white paper each year to tell everyone about what they're up to and how they do their thing.
Okay.
It's got nothing to do with B Corp, but it's just their own proud thing. And B Corp is just another way of kind of doing that with people.
Yeah.
But I think if people are on that B Corp journey, I think it's obviously a really, really good thing to do. You can do it by yourself, but you just don't have that stamp that you can put on all of your products or your website or whatever. And I wouldn't use it to try and gain more sales. I don't think people buy stuff because it's a B Corp brand. No. It's a nice thing to have, but it's up to you how you want to go and do it.
It's a bit like the Fair Trade logo. It's a nice thing to have on the side, or Rainforest Alliance logo, but actually with people, if you interviewed 100 people, how many people would know what a B Corp logo is? I'm sure our mum wouldn't know what it is. So I think you can get caught up in trying to be this, be that, be the other. It won't make a difference when you're sat across the table with a buyer, really. At the end of the day, the product's got to sell. Yeah. And that's it. So let all those kind of jazzy logos just come later. But make sure your values in your product they're strong and they're the right thing.
Brilliant. Thank you. Great advice. So let's come on to that kind of exit piece. I mean, I sit here now, and I met you in those early days, and you both have still got so much energy and passion.
Do we?
Yeah, that comes across. For that, and we heard Jim's mini rant earlier about the benefits of iced coffee and the fact he still loves the product and all of those kind of things. So when was the moment that you thought, we actually do need to sell this business?
Day 2.
No, it wasn't. It was a couple of years ago when it all started to get quite serious, quite corporate, and just quite boring, really.
Right.
It was just like, this is no fun anymore. Not completely no fun, but just like, And it also got really hard. You are a family business, and you are on a shelf when you've got Starbucks on one shoulder and you've got Coke on the other.
Yeah.
That is not an easy place to be at all. Not when these two guys either side of you can say to the buyer, here's a check. And that is the way it works, whether anyone likes it or not. That is what happens.
The way of life.
They can get their bonus in one foul swoop with just going, do you know what? No thanks. We're not going to give you another facing And
their distribution is phenomenal. Coke bought they bought Costa, and within a heartbeat, Costa cans were everywhere. And even on the Broadway, which is 5-minute drive from here, which is right near, I can walk to that shop in about 4 minutes. I used to go into that shop regularly, just saying, when are you going to start stocking our stuff? Like, just joking. Oh no, we don't want iced coffee. We're okay for now. Blah blah blah. And then you read in the Grocer magazine that Costa bought Costa, and then the following Tuesday, 4 of their cans are in my local Broadway shop, and you're like, what are you selling that for? I've been trying to sell you this for months. Oh, the rep came in and it's done. And you're like, okay, so this is one tiny shop in the middle of nowhere. You imagine what they're doing. They've probably got like 15,000 shops overnight, and you're like, hey, it's like stingy, really stingy.
Yeah, that really did
kind
hurt.
of we felt the wave of iced coffee and the size of the category was getting so big that we thought not just it felt like a sensible move to find someone to help us basically properly excel and give us like some serious security. Not that we actually, it wasn't us. Well, yeah, the company needed security to know that it was going to be okay.
I think the brand was ready, though. The brand was ready to... I always sort of likened it to being at school. It was kind of leaving university. It was ready to move on to something a bit more grown up and have some grown up wings that could actually take it places. Because we knew it worked. We knew the product sold. We knew we were different in our packaging, in our ingredients. It was a refreshing iced coffee, not a dessert, which a lot of the competitors are. And we just knew that it was ready to fly with someone else that was not us, because we are not those people. No. And we certainly had not. We don't have the skills or the expertise or the bank account to be a Coke. We're not. We're two siblings from Dorset and Dubai, but
great admiration, because not a lot of people sometimes have that moment of realization that they've taken the business as far, they're still in love with it, they still love the product, but they've taken it as far as they're able or willing to take it.
And that's a very...
I admire you for that.
Yeah, well, as soon as it just gets out of control, you just let go of the reins. Yeah. And you don't want it to get to that point. You want to see that it's gonna. You want to, and we could actually foresee it coming, and we're like, this is where we need to start stepping back a little bit.
Let them go a bit.
Introduce us to some buyers of the company, and then kind of do the whole courting game and go through the whole process and then go.
Because we had approaches, from a very young age, actually, a young age of the business, and one got quite serious, and we actually said to each other, no, we're actually really happy. We're loving the journey at the moment, so thanks, but no thanks. Which, you sort of look back, and I'm glad we said no, because we were having too much fun at the time, and that's great, and it was good
a really good point, though.
It's good to recognise that. And equally, Dragon's Den was another one back in the day, early days. We turned up and did our interview with them, dressed in our morph suits and our carton dresses again, and the director was like, we absolutely want you on, you'll make great telly, this will be great. And then they offered it to us, and Jim was just like, absolutely no way are we going to be known to be the brand that made it because of Dragon's Den, like the reggae story. And our roles were different then, so I was in sales and production, and I was just like, but we need the awareness, and this will give us the awareness, and that means we can make more product, and means we can pay Framptons, which mean, and Jim was absolutely like, no, we will make this on our own. I was like, okay, and twice they came back to us and were like, please come on, and I was like, no, really
I'm still really glad that we didn't.
I'm really glad we didn't, but it would have been a quicker success story. But then actually quicker doesn't mean you've got deeper foundations.
Quicker doesn't mean better,
no,
does it?
It doesn't.
Because it can also mean kind of, you got it, and so we'll give you a listing, and then if it doesn't work, you're out, and then you're just dead.
Yeah, and if you weren't ready for that listing at that point.
Exactly, yeah.
No, that's right. I mean, getting a listing is great, but keeping that listing is where the hard work starts.
Is that a tougher challenge for somebody that's building a kind of,
absolutely
food and drink business, trying to get into the supermarkets? Keeping the listings the challenge.
I mean, it's euphoric getting it, but then it's literally, that's when you're actually scared.
That's when the hard work starts.
Oh yes, because that's when you have to stand outside the store with coupons and vouchers and sample and be like almost dragging people to the milk aisle to go, here it is.
Take
mine, please.
We're doing some mentoring with a drinks company at the moment, and we've just said, if you get these 2 supermarket listings that you're after, don't go and chase anything for a couple of years. If people come to you, that's fine. But you've just been given, what could be £2 million each for each account per year. Yeah. If you do it right. So just slow down and just appreciate what you've got and sweat that like an absolute mother, because you will only lose sleep over the stores you're not able to influence. Yeah. And if you go to bed knowing that you've done everything you possibly can to make each one of those stores get someone in to buy the product that day, you can sleep. But the moment someone goes, here's another 1,000 stores, you're like, actually, I don't want them because I can't service them, and I don't want to have a 1 or 2 rate of sale, which is how many units you sell per store per week. Yeah. You want the retailer to go, those 100 stores I've given you, you're doing 100 units per store per week. It's like, yes. because I'm doing this. It's all simple stuff.
Slowly.
People just get very infatuated with like, we need listings.
Yeah.
You could earn a very tidy living out of having just Tesco if you wanted to, and just service that account for your entire life and just get all the money coming in. You could totally do that, but people just see more and more.
And once you lose that listing, it's very, very hard to go back.
Must be near on impossible because you've lost your credibility at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It reminds me, I said this the other day to someone, do you know the movie Aladdin?
Yes.
So when they go into the Cave of Wonders, the tiger who opens his mouth says, touch nothing but the lamp. And the monkey goes in and he's just like surrounded by gold and jewelry, and he ends up just picking up this jewel that he's not allowed to have when he's only allowed to have the lamp. And it's just touch nothing but the lamp. That's all you need to focus on. Forget everything else is really glistening and really nice, but you can't have it until you've worked the lamp.
Perfect.
Do the lamp.
Do the lamp. Great
Touch
advice.
nothing but the lamp. Yeah.
So we're now in June 24, sold the business July 23. What was that feeling you had the day? I want to come on and talk about life since, but what was that feeling you had the day you sold the business? Can you reflect?
I was exhausted because the lead up was so quick. Once we had finalised the buyer and the time we had, our lawyers said, no, it's literally, well, not literally, it's virtually impossible to do this in 9 days. This sort of thing should take 2 to 3 months. There was
this is post final offer. They then typically need to do the due diligence work, which takes 2 or 3 months. But they wanted it done within 5 working days, and so we were like, "Is this gonna? Well, they want it done." And our M&A guys, the lawyers, they're like, "Nah, this just does not happen," and it happened. So by the time we did the actual sale, we were like, still in the mode of there's probably still another couple of months, but it had already been done,
right?
Which was just. Trothowans, who are our legal team, big up.
They're fantastic.
Absolute turbo legends.
But it was
the coolest dudes on earth.
Screens
Fantastic.
up, all at our own dining tables, 3 a.m. Everyone trying to get every shareholder to sign documents, and I mean, people say, oh, the last bit is nearly killed me, and I was thinking, no, I'm not going to let it. It'll be fine. But it was absolutely just exhausting, and it's you're learning because you've never done it before. And I actually needed, it was another one of those, we need to get another witness signature. So I drove round to Jim's. I had my slippers on, and I like, get in the car, and we drove into Tuckton and pulled up outside this little bar where this lovely lady that owns it was our sort of witness. And I was like, can you start witness this? So we were in there, and then all of a sudden we got a call to say, right, it's we're going to complete in 15 minutes. And we said, what? So we didn't have time to go home and get changed or, look half decent. So we grabbed it, we told our families to get to the bar. And then we were like, right, we were sent this link. So log on to this Zoom link. And so we sort of logged on. And
it was great having enough time, wasn't it? Because everyone all of our like absolute closest, nearest and dearest managed to turn up before we had this link that we needed to go on to.
Yeah. And we're sort of waiting in the waiting room, and it's spinning wheel of death, and no one's turning up. And then our MD gets a call from the lawyers, and he takes the call outside, and he's marching around the pavement up and down. And Jim and I are looking at him like expectant parents, like what's happened now? And then he came in. Oh no, it's aborted. There's something there's an email that was sent in 2014 that they need to clarify. It's like, oh right, okay. And then it's like, right, back on. We're going to complete in the next 15 minutes. So, and there were 3 aborts, and then we got to the last one, and we're now in like the Zoom link number, God knows how many, because there'd been so many Teams meetings, and we thought we were on the right link, and we weren't, and we're waiting in this waiting room, and then Luke got another call, and we were like, this is just ridiculous, and then he came inside and he went, oh, it's done. And we were like, well, we're not. I'm still waiting. I'm still trying to log in.
We missed the moment.
Yeah. What do you mean it's done? They said, oh, they were waiting for us in the waiting room, but we've
been given the wrong link.
We were on the wrong
code.
link. And it was really like, it's done. Are you sure? What do you mean it's done? Are you? Hang on a minute. What? It was just really like, I don't know. It wasn't all the things you think it's going to be like. Wow. It was just like, hang on.
It was so good to have everyone there, though.
It was
we like
amazing.
properly celebrated that night. It was.
Yeah,
It was really lovely.
But then we had a big thing with the next day. We had to go and tell all of our crew because they knew nothing about this. So we then had to go prepare this massive speech and then go and deliver that to all the crew. We had to get everyone from as far as Scotland, because that's how far we have had a road crew, and get everyone down without sort of alarming them. Like, no need to worry, but everyone needs to meet in the office tomorrow at 8:00. Yeah, you fly down, you get across. And it was like, oh my God, what's happening?
It can only be one thing.
Yeah. And then we broke the news to them, and then we sort of had to hand over our keys and our email accounts and then sort of walk out, and it was like, oh
Right.
and then you're a Gmail person, and no one's emailing you. So that was weird.
And obviously similar feelings for you, Jim.
Yeah, it was like, thankfully to Luke, who's the MD of Jimmy's, he's actually just moved on, but he managed the sales process like just a genius. He can put his legal hat on, he can put his operational hat on, he's a really, really, truly talented guy, which allowed Suze and I we were basically just there to try and help him, just basically asking him, is he okay? What can we do to help? What do we need to do? And he was just like, I've got it.
Cool.
So he did the absolute majority of the work on that, which was just awesome. I think when we kind of came to the end, we were all a little bit kind of euphoric and a little bit kind of daydreamy, because we'd had all these meetings with all of these amazing potential buyers in London, in this most amazing office, full boardroom. It's just kind of stuff that you think about and you go, God, imagine that, what it'd be like, blah, 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 blah. And those days did unfold, and then you get your first offer through and you're like, oh my God, this is actually happening. This big company wants our company. And how cool is that? And you're kind of riding that wave. And then doing the deal, it was actually Kip, my oldest boy, it was his birthday that day, so we had a bit of celebration for him and celebrating selling the company. And then a few days later the actual cash arrives in the account, and you're kind of like, oh my God. And we had only been given up to 10 days of consultancy to do for a whole year, and then we're done. So we've got another month left, and we've only done 2 days of consultancy each for Britvic, who ultimately bought us. And it was just so nice doing a clean cut, full 100% sale. You get to cash out, and you don't have any future responsibilities for the sales of the business or anything like that. It's all just done. And that was so refreshing.
Yeah, we were very clear with our mergers and acquisition team, who were fantastic, that we did not want to be out was out. Yeah.
Cool. And what's life been like since then?
It's been awesome.
Yeah.
I've got 3 kids, and I've had so much more time with them. We've done some amazing trips. I like one of my bucket list things. I bought myself a Defender, and I wanted to take it off-roading. So we did. We drove to Morocco, did thousands of kilometers, went properly off-roading in the desert. We hooked up with 5 other families out there. We did surfing. We did yoga. We just did tons of stuff that we've always wanted to do. And since I've done a trip to Japan, and we've been to Italy as a family, and we're just planning now a 6-week van road trip. We're driving to Jersey, and then we're going into France, and we're doing top of Spain, into Portugal, because we've got time to be able to do it. And it's not like we're going from hotel to hotel to hotel because we've got all of this so-called money. We actually just want to just keep doing what we've always done, which is like just simple, fun stuff. But we've just got more time to be able to do it. And that's just the best. 6 weeks on the road without worrying about an email is like... totally joyous, and I do appreciate that on the daily. It's not like one of these like, oh, we're used to it now. It's actually, Suze and I will catch up with each other, as regularly as possible, and we will still go, oh my God, we did it.
Yeah, we did that this morning.
We did, we've done it. I can't believe it. And we will say that for years, because we're in such a lucky. We worked hard, yes, blah blah blah, but we are in a really lucky position to be where we are, and no major desires for me to go and do anything as risky. Like I've done all the risk taking I need to do ever. If I was going to do risk now, it'd be going and jumping out of a plane. I don't want to do it through business. I'd much rather do some mentoring stuff, which we're doing, a couple of talks, but that's it. That's it.
And for you, what's it felt like in the last year?
It's been, euphoric. And initially, it was kind of like I woke up every day and I'd go into the kitchen and make a coffee, and I sort of have this shudder, like, oh, oh, I just love not working. I love not working. And I loved that my phone was just so quiet. And it just wasn't like beep, 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 beep the whole time. I love it. And I found the winter a bit hard because it was just a bit grey. And when we obviously sold, it was the summer and there was lots going on and lots of travelling. And then the winter was a bit like, oh. And then I sort of felt a bit like, oh, right, okay. I felt the hard stop kick in a bit. And I was like, everyone kept talking about what's your purpose? And I was like, I don't know, what is my purpose? What is going on?
No purpose is the purpose.
And then sort of adjusted to that, and now I feel absolutely fine. But it is a journey in itself, just kind of coming through that of being. And I hate the cliche 100 miles an hour to nothing, but it literally was. And then but I had time with my little one, which I've so enjoyed because I was working after 3 weeks of having her. So I've been able to be a mum. I've been able to do school drop-offs, which I think I did about 2 a term. Now I do it every day, and it's really lovely.
Just take life as a privilege.
Totally, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Fantastic. And you've got no desire to go again and do anything again. I can see it in your eyes. I know what the answer's going to be.
No,
but
absolutely a hard no. My risk is done. I don't want to have another letter from HMRC about filling in another anything or be accountable to complete a return. I'm done. No more.
Fantastic.
No.
And you still look at the product on the shelves with joy and passion.
I do look at it. I was in Waitrose the other day and I was like, I was with my little girl B and I was like, look B, they've got the big ones in because they've now made these bigger bottles and she was like, oh, that's good, Mummy, did you do that? And I'm like, well, no, I didn't really do that. But I look at it and I think, well done that they're still on the shelves and well done that they're expanding their range into the retailers and I feel proud. Yeah, I feel proud of it.
Right, perfect. So my last question to sum up is, and I always end with this question, is this question of what's your definition of personal success? Everything you've been on, the journey you've been through, what's your definition of personal success?
For me, it would be just having time. Time is... We went sailing with this really, really cool old dude called Kevin Lane, who we met in Australia. And we sailed on his boat for 5.5 weeks and we paid him $50 a week to go on his boat. And we did 1,100 nautical miles. I'd never been sailing properly. And he had this quote, which was, he is free who knows how to keep in his own hands the power to decide. And I just love that quote. And I've got a tattoo of an eagle. It's the worst eagle in the world. And it's got freedom underneath it. And the idea of having freedom to just freedom to choose to do whatever you want to do when you want to do it within reason, is the ultimate personal success for me.
Brilliant.
It is freedom, definitely.
Freedom. Well, congratulations both. You both got freedom now.
We do.
Yeah, thanks,
yes,
Warren.
Thank you.
You've been
very
great
much.
guests on the Evolve to Succeed podcast. Thank you for just being on the podcast and sharing so candidly your experiences.
It's so nice to see you again, and thanks so much for having us. It's been great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Warren. Bless you.
Cheers, Warren.
Thank you.
Susie and Jim have just left, and I'm just kind of aghast with the value that they gave during that course of that conversation. I had dipped in, dipped out in terms of bumping into them at various different points of their journey, but I didn't know the half of that story. And for them to share that story in such a candid and open way and give you, the listeners, so much value, I'm so appreciative of. And what a great venue we are today. We like to get out and about and filming, and with them being Christchurch based, we've come to the lovely terrace at Soho in Christchurch. Great place, great restaurant, great bar. Please do give it a go. And remember, if you're enjoying these new video first episodes of the Evolve to Succeed podcast, then please do remember to subscribe. And what you can really do is rate the podcast for us, leave us reviews. It will really help. We have got some amazing guests lined up in the months ahead, so please make sure you've subscribed so you don't miss an episode. Thank you.